So thank you, Neil. Thanks for your time this afternoon.
Pleasure.
How would you define the Central Institute brand?
I think we'd describe ourselves as being young, as being inventive and urban. And all of that would be built on a tradition at the Institute where we trace our origins back to 1900. So we've got that great tradition behind us, while at the same time looking to the future. And if we think about our motto, the motto of the original Perth Technical School was Resurgam, which means rebirth, which is why we'd consider we'd want to be characterised as an organisation that continually reinvents itself as the future evolves.
What does the change from TAFE to Central Institute reflect?
Again, I think the changing nature of the sector. The TAFE as an acronym was actually coined in the early 1970s, which described the fact that we didn't just do technical education, but it was broader than that. The FE stands for further education, and if we look to the future, then I think our future is going to be characterised by a foray into what we now know as higher education or the university sector. And while we wouldn't aspire to be a university, I think what we're going to find is that we will be delivering a suite of higher education qualifications. So if I think about our positioning, in our brand positioning, if you like, into the future, we'd probably sit somewhere in the juncture between what people would normally understand as the TAFE sector and where the universities sit. So people aspiring to higher level skills and qualifications on the one hand, and further and higher study on the other hand. So for me, the change to the Institute of Technology signifies that the changing nature of that tertiary sector.
There are several institutes in Western Australia. How do they differentiate themselves and how do they compete?
In many respects, each of us has our unique forms of delivery. So, for instance, at Central, one of the things that differentiates us is the fact that we have a creative industries area that has a reputation nationally and internationally. We have artists and designers and filmmakers here who are well known across the nation. So that's unique about us. We have a reasonably large area where we deliver high-level engineering qualifications, and I understand that's something that is unlike any other TAFE institute, if you like, in the country. The level at which we deliver those qualifications and the nature of those qualifications. So each of us has some unique aspects, but in many other areas each of us delivers similar qualifications. So in generic areas like business, which would be replicated across all institutes. How we differentiate ourselves, I guess, is on the basis of our quality, the structure of our programs, and in the case of Central, not only our location. We have campuses, as our advertisements say, not where old people walk their dogs, but where people gather around for coffee. So that's distinctive about us. But we're also distinctive in that our qualifications are pitched at the higher level. So we occupy the higher vocational qualifications spectrum.
Given the plethora of media options open to you these days, how has your approach to communication changed over the last 12 to 24 months?
We are increasingly reliant on electronic communication, if you like. We've recently done a survey, and we need to be careful about this because people would often say to us, you know, there's a whole cohort out there who couldn't connect to you electronically. We've just done a survey of our students and found that I think it's about 85% of our students own a electronic device. Mindful of the fact that we do have a large cohort of students for whom English is not the first language, and so I'd qualify it by saying that, and we need to devise a mechanism to engage with them well. But for the majority of our student population, we can now quite confidently say that we can engage with them electronically. As a public sector organisation, we have to be mindful of the fact that we are using taxpayers' funds, and so we don't have unlimited funds available for marketing and promoting ourselves. So we've come to rely increasingly on electronic communication. And if I can use by way of an example, something which some ex-film students of ours did earlier this year, they created a little vignette about what differentiated Central, which we thought would be controversial, and it was, but it went viral. There were 2.2 million people across the world who saw that. It's nothing that we could have wildly imagined. And there were people, it ended up on talkback shows in America, on websites all over the world, and was being hailed as one of the best college advertisements that was ever made. There were times during that whole period where I thought my own future was somewhat in jeopardy, but I have to say that one of the things that we were praised for was the courage that we had in agreeing to that being made. There's a whole other story about that which I won't go into, but just by way of illustrating the sort of thing that we're going to have to do to get our message across to a wide range of people. The other piece of information which I recently got was that we have, of all the state training organisations or TAFE colleges in Western Australia, the highest proportion, over 80% of our students who now have central email addresses. So the whole task of engaging with our students is made so much easier. I should point out that one of the differences between us and, say, university is a student who goes to university is there for at least 3 years, yes. 4, 5, 6, yes. 10 in some instances. With us, students tend to be here for a shorter period of time. So in a sense, the task of engaging with them is more challenging, but it's something that I think we've begun to address really well.
So what do you see as the big challenges in the next 12 to 24 months for Central Institute?
This foray into the tertiary sector, I think, is something which is going to be important for us. I would want to ensure that any student who comes here and does a higher education qualification would have the same, if not better, experience than if they went to a university. What we could guarantee them was much more individualised attention and support than they would get if they went to a university. So that's one thing. The whole training market is becoming much more competitive. So areas that we would once have been assured of, we're going to find other competitors in that space. And we're going to have to continue to differentiate ourselves on the basis of our quality, the quality of our delivery. As that competition grows, I guess funding will become more difficult, or we will need to compete for that funding. And we'll be judged on the quality of our delivery, the quality of our outputs, and that sort of thing. The third thing that I would like us to do is, we have, for instance, a large number of international students here, and we would continue to want that to grow. But equally, I would want us to consider ourselves an international organisation, in the sense that we would want our students to have an opportunity, and our staff, an opportunity to engage actively with other cultures and in other countries. So, to give you an example of the sort of thing I'm talking about, in a week's time, a group of 10 students from our Teachers Assistant program and our nursing area will be visiting the Salam Balak Trust, which is an organisation in India that caters for young homeless people. And that organisation was set up as a consequence of a film called Salam Bombay, which, if people remember, was about homeless kids or street kids in India. And this group of students will be going there for 3 weeks to volunteer and to assist those children. And they'll be doing so as part of their formal study program. So that's another aspect, a dimension that I would want us to add to our students. I think those sort of 3 things, there are plenty of others, but if I were to pick, I'd say those 3 things of the higher, the tertiary delivery, the quality and the fact that we'll need to differentiate ourselves on the basis of quality in a more competitive market, and internationalising the experience for our own students and staff.
And just finally, how many students are there here? How many are overseas? And how many are older?
Most people would be surprised to hear us say that we have 30,000 enrolments each year. That would equate to about 15,500 full-time equivalent students. So that's a sizable cohort. We're the only comprehensive educational institute in the city. Each year we'd have about 1,300 international students that come here from about, until this year I would have said 72 countries of the world. This year I can confidently say 73 countries of the world. I haven't found out what that other country is, but I did have someone meet me in the lift the other day and say they were here to do community services and they'd come from Lisbon. And I've often wondered how it is that someone in Lisbon would make a decision about coming to Perth to study community services, but nonetheless, so 73 countries of the world. In terms of our student population, 40% of our students are under the age of 24. So we do have a disproportionately high number of younger students, full-time younger students, and in that regard the profile of our student population has probably changed in the last 20 to 25 years. Once upon a time the majority of our students will have been mature age and part-time. It's dramatically changed in the last 20, 25 years. I couldn't give you an exact proportion of students who are older students, but we do have students. In fact, I was told today that one of our graduating photography students is 82 and will this year complete his diploma of photography.
Fantastic. Thanks, Neil. Thanks very much for your time.
My pleasure.